Hey everyone, you're listening to the Simple Electronics Podcast. I'm your host, Dan, from the Simple Electronics YouTube channel. This episode is brought to you by PCBWay, and more about that a little bit later on, because right now I've got a very special guest. You might know him as Basement Electronics on YouTube. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm pretty good. So you're a fellow Canadian. Are you excited for spring and sick of the snow like me, or are you just loving it overall?
Oh, I'm very looking forward to spring. It feels like every time I'm ready to do some work outside, we get just a little more snow, just enough that I can't do anything.
Yeah, so for those of you who don't know, he's actually a couple hours southwest of me. And so the weather that I feel is very similar to the weather that he feels, except I got rid of all my snow, and you were saying that you never lost all your snow, right?
No, we lost our snow. We just got a light dusting of it yesterday.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
with that ice storm that we had about a week and a half ago, we that actually helped get rid of all our snow too.
Well, that's good to hear. Yeah, we got a full snowstorm up here, probably 6 centimeters of snow or so. That's, I don't know, 2.5 inches, 3 inches for the people in the United States, Liberia, and Myanmar. And so what have you been up to lately? I've seen that you've released a April 1st video. How did that go?
That actually went a lot better than I expected. So since I started the channel, I tried to make a point to at least put something out on April 1st. Like not necessarily like an April Fool's style video, but at least something fun, maybe something a little different from what I would usually do on the channel. So this year marked the 10th April 1st video, because I'm going to hit my 10-year anniversary in August. So I decided to basically go through all my previous videos and just kind of do a commentary on every one of them. So I never really expect much from these videos. Like I never expect them to be the highest viewing videos in the channel. But this year's actually went pretty well. I'd say it looks like it's right now ranking third in all of my April 1st videos.
Oh, and obviously it had the less time to simmer because we're recording this on the 9th. So there's only 8 days essentially of data for that, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Pretty cool. And so can you tell us a couple of your, like, obviously people are going to have to go watch the video, but can you let us know a couple of your notable April 1st videos that maybe starting with the ones you like the most?
Well, the one I liked the most was from a couple years ago, which I just called and is basically all of the outcuts from the first 2 years of my recording, because I say a lot, especially when I'm trying to figure out what to say next. So it was like a full 3.5 minutes of clips of me just going and it actually worked really well. And when I was going through the videos again to put the compilation together, I actually ended up watching the full thing again, and it actually made me laugh. My second favorite was one I did. It was a take on the IT Crowd's episode where they had the internet. So I found a key lock box, put a 555 timer in it with a blinking LED. Then I put a sticker saying "This is the cloud." So that must be my second favorite. And then I think my third one is the first one I did, where I did a let's play of the little dinosaur jumping game in Chrome that you get when you lose your internet.
Real streamer stuff.
Well, that first year I was kind of influenced by some Let's Players, so I figured it'd be a fun thing to do for an April 1st. Like, hey, you know what would people think if I went from electronics to Let's Plays? And it also made me realize why I don't do Let's Plays.
Yeah, because
I cannot get that stream of consciousness that a lot of them tend to do when they play games.
that's something you get used to, though. It's like a muscle, and essentially all of your internal thoughts, you just have to vocalize them. It's a little bit weird. Like I do that live streaming too. Not quite like concentrating on a video game, but like this morning, I think you were on the live stream and I was trying to build a breadboard circuit. And so I had to externalize everything I was thinking. But like, don't get me wrong, it takes a lot of concentration to get the pins in the right holes the first shot. So that's cool that you had a lot of fun. I'm really glad that you did. I've always had ideas for April Fool's videos, but just the execution is something that told me I was supposed to start earlier, but I always start way too late. And so I don't think I ever officially put out a April Fool's video.
Yeah, well, it's funny because it sneaks up on you. Like the number of April 1st videos I put out that I would record like on like the 29th of March or 30th. Like, so one I did which was just a time lapse of a 3D print, and it was just like this useless little ring that had like Basement Electronics embossed on the side of it. If you look at the timestamp of the time lapse, it was overnight from the 29th to the 30th. So that kind of tells you the kind of time margins I was dealing with some of these. Others like the internet, I definitely had to put a lot more work and design and thought into, and I'd like to say it shows when you put more thought and work into it, but sometimes the ones you do the night before get just as much reaction as the ones that you put about a month worth of planning into. So it's pretty much like any of the other videos we put out. It's you get an idea, you execute it, and then once you release it to the world, you see where it goes.
Yep. Like, for example, my most effort-filled video, how to use a multimeter, the very basics, that is my second most viewed, has 179,000 views. But my number one most viewed is a video I took pretty much in one take, which is charging a drill battery without an official charger. And that has 1,179,000 views. So it's really a mixed bag. I always said on YouTube, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you get.
No. Yeah, I started a series of on programming and when I got less than like 100 views on it in over 2 weeks, it's like, all right, maybe people don't want this. And it was a series I was really looking forward to putting together.
Is that your 1 month ago video, the program layout?
Yeah.
Yeah, so those things, that is, to me, the most rewarding videos to make is videos that are like tutorial-y and sort of educational. But you'll have to gauge its effectiveness in 1 to 3 years from now. And I'll tell you why. The video is not entertaining. And I'm not saying that as an insult. I'm saying that as a reality. Tutorial videos are horrible entertainment. So they don't get the clicks. But what they get is they get Google search and YouTube search results. And that adds up over time. And so you'll probably see. So I'm looking right now. It's about a month old. You got 88 views. You'll probably see a hockey stick effect where it's going to be pretty flat. And then all of a sudden people find it, they engage with it. And then Google's like, oh, let's rank this one up in the search rankings. And I can share with you after the podcast a whole bunch of screenshots of my analytics where my tutorial videos do just that. They go very flat.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the usefulness, quote unquote, of the video is found, because it's not entertaining, you'll see it'll hockey stick upwards. So if that's something you're passionate about, I wouldn't be discouraged by low viewership, because that is evergreen content that'll be, it'll be served for the next, 10 years or whatever.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm going to completely abandon it, but it certainly puts a lower priority on part 2 of that series. So I think the next video I'm going to do is probably just going to be a kit build. And then I have like some other ones where I want to look at like an I squared S circuit that I want to turn into a Bluetooth speaker, and so stuff like that. And because those tutorial videos, they're hard to put together. Like they're hard to plan. You want to make sure that, like all your thoughts are in an understandable order so that anyone who's listening to you and watching this video, they it makes sense to them. So like it's a lot of work. Meanwhile, like if I'm doing a kit build, like those are probably the easiest ones to do, because you turn the camera on, you build the kit, and then when you edit it, like maybe there's a few, you time lapse through some of the soldering, but it's still there's still very fun videos, and they're easy to put together, and people seem to enjoy them.
That's for sure. And that's why at some point, like 2-3 years ago, I was stuck in this cycle of doing mailbag videos, because mailbag videos are like the easiest thing ever. I mean, I order serially from AliExpress, well, in serial and in parallel. And so I've got a constant stream of, these yellow, gray, and white packages coming from China. And so it was so easy to be like, okay, I need to work on a project. But then I look at my mail pile and there's something like 12 packages in there. Now, do I want to work on project X, or do I want to go in my pile, pick 5 of the latest packages and open them on camera? It was just so much easier to do mailbag videos. And then at some point I realized that the only content I was putting out for like 3, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months while I was teaching, because teaching took so much of my time, was mailbag videos. And so even some of the commenters are like, what is this, a mailbag channel? Like, and I guess at that point I got a little discouraged and I stopped doing them. I might bring them back at some point, but for the moment, it just seems like I needed to stop on the mailbag videos, because it's just too easy to slip into those easy videos, and it pushes aside all the work I need to do on, actual quote unquote videos. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes total sense. Like I try to make a point to not have 2 of the same type of videos in a row, so that way I don't fall into ruts like always a mailbag video, always a teardown, always a kit build. If try to split it up a bit, then at least you can kind of see the variety on the channel a bit. That doesn't always work like when I kind of disappear for 2-3 weeks at a time, but
Definitely. And I feel you, because I disappear for like a couple months at a time, especially when I get teaching contracts, which, by the way, for those of you listening at home, my live stream viewers know this already, but my podcast viewers didn't get to hear about this yet. But my school just closed down the automotive department completely. I mean, I'm not supposed to say this. It's not supposed to be public yet because it's not officially happened, but what are they going to do? Fire me? So essentially, my time as an automotive professor is pretty much over until further notice. So I shouldn't be disappearing for months at a time anymore. Sorry to drop that on you.
No, if you do still want to teach, though, apparently, like I know you've addressed this before, but apparently high schools are getting really desperate. And I know that you say that they tend to want teaching credentials. They're not as picky as they used to be. Like my wife has actually been approached to help teach in music programs, and she doesn't have teaching credentials, but she has a lot of experience. So, so even if it's like like starting off as like a second to someone, it might at least be a foot in the door.
So I will say this. I spent a day at a high school with a tech teacher that did, what was he doing? Manufacturing was one of his courses, construction was another, and automotive was the third. So those were his 3 periods. And the amount of absolute chaos it is, teaching 45 students in one room, and you're the only supervision in that entire room. It just made me not feel like I wanted to do it. So that was number one. That I was pursuing it, but after that, I don't know if I have it in me. The
Yeah,
second
and
thing, oh, go ahead.
there's definitely something to be said for wanting to teach older and arguably more mature students.
Yeah. So that was the first thing. The second thing is, at my college, one of the most surefire programs that I was teaching was a program that we called pre-apprenticeship, which is essentially you're taking anyone from high school graduates all the way to full-blown adults. My youngest student was 17. My oldest student was about 60 or 61. And it's people that don't have any skills at all. Like they don't know what a hammer is. And we bring them into an 18-week program, and we teach them the names of tools, how to use the tools, the names of car parts, how to do basic repairs, and things that would get them hired, like oil changes, tire changes, balancing, stuff like that, brake inspections, like all the basics. And they would do this program. Then they would qualify for level 1 of apprenticeship. There's a three-year apprenticeship program here in Ontario, for those of you that don't know. And then they would do a co-op in a garage for, I think it was 6 weeks. And the success rate of this program was very high. So, but that was during the summer. Usually we ran it on the summer. As soon as high schools were done, I think there was a 2-week period, and then we were teaching that in the summer. If you join a high school as a teacher, they wanted, at least for a trades teacher, they wanted you to take a 2-year accelerated teaching course, so you get your teaching credentials. So you could teach without the credentials, but they wanted you to be enrolled in this, and that course happens during the summer. So the goal was that you would work for the school during the school year, and then in summer you would be working on your credentials. That would take you 2 summers. So the other big deal about not wanting to be a high school teacher was that I would have to give up the program that I built from the ground up and that the college was offering. However, in the last couple of years now, I don't want to get into politics, but let's say the political landscape is not favorable for schools. And so my program was canceled. And at the last minute, now that there is no program in the summer because the department is completely dissolved, that becomes a possibility again. So I'm going to look into becoming a high school teacher.
So you're not without options. You definitely have things to think about.
Correct. I'm just right now. And again, I don't want to dump this all on you. This was, you're doing this out of the kindness of your heart. So I don't want to trauma dump on you. But
That's fine.
Yeah, I just feel like, I had something that I really loved doing. Literally, what for the first time in my life felt like I was born to do, which was teaching at a college level. And now that has been swept away. I mean, there's like maybe 6 let's say there was like 8 full-time positions in all of Ottawa doing this job, a town of a million people. And now there are only 6. Because my department was removed. So it feels like the wind came out of my sails, but it's not like I'm without options, like you said, because the 2 things that I'm going to do, or the 3 things I'm going to do, is reopen the possibility of high school teaching, which again, we're in a political landscape here in Ontario that doesn't favor schools. So I'm not sure. There are some schools outside of the city that still teach automotive. I can think to the west, Kingston has a program, and to the east, Cornwall has a program. So I'm going to apply to those, even though there's no like openings. There could be. And the other thing is I need to make my own content. So I need to work on the Dan Fixes Cars YouTube channel, which I was supposed to start years ago, but the best time to start was years ago. Next best time to start is now. So that is the like short-term plan, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, it's it's kind of funny because when you hear certain people talking about wanting to enhance training of the trades, and then you hear stuff like what you're going through, it feels so, say one thing, do another kind of, which
There's a mismatch,
And
right?
there's definitely mismatch, and then without getting into it, doesn't surprise me. But
Yeah, you're dancing around politics a little bit,
yeah,
which is fine. That's fine. I'll just tell you that the investment in training is there. It does exist. It's just shifted from colleges into private companies with no oversight. And so,
there it is.
yeah, so that it's not that there's no that there's not going to be any automotive training. It's just like electricians, plumbers, etc. They mostly have unions, associations, lobbying groups, etc., etc. In automotive, there's no union. It's very scattered, and so there's nobody to give the money to take over this training, and so it's less of a, instead of paying these guys, we'll pay these guys. It's more of a I don't want to fund colleges anymore. That's kind of in automotive. That's the issue we're having there. Yeah. So that's pretty much as political as I'd like to get on this
Yeah,
podcast, essentially.
yeah.
So
Well, if I remember the last time I was on the podcast, we were talking about internet providers in rural areas. So I'm not scared to get a little political, but
yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, we're all, as Canadians, right? We all know
yeah,
what the challenges are, and we all know who's to blame, and
yeah,
it is what it is. Let's flip this back around, because you brought up something really cool that I think is really cool that we don't see so much anymore. Is you have a local or semi-local electronics store, like a physical brick
yes.
and mortar store that you enjoy going to. Can you talk to us a little bit about this store and how it's a different experience to ordering stuff online, for example? Just a quick interruption to talk about this episode's sponsor, PCBWay. PCBWay has been a long-term sponsor of the channel, and I think they're a good match for my channel because they provide quality PCBs for a reasonable price. You can get boards manufactured up to 100 mils by 100 mils for just $5. Including shipping to Canada, $15 US. Including shipping to USA, $12 US, which is incredibly cheap for professionally manufactured PCBs. I can personally attest to the quality of these PCBs, and so if you want a circuit immortalized forever, check out PCBWay.com with the link in the description. Now back to the conversation.
Oh, it's definitely a different experience, and anyone who can find like a local electronic shop, I completely encourage going to them. So the cost will likely be a little more than you would if you were to order online, which they do have overhead, and they do have, and in all likelihood they're probably getting their stuff the same place that you are when you order online. But so this particular place, and I talked about them in some of my kit builds videos, is Q Kits, and this guy has been around forever, and he has so many stories. He's a wealth of information. He's the type of person, like, you go into the shop and just order a few components, maybe a spool of 3D filament, and you end up spending the next 45 minutes just talking to him. And he's always, he's always happy to talk to his customers, always happy to share what's going on. And that's just not the experience that you get when you order online. Order online is the more instant gratification. You click add to cart, pay, and then you're done with it. Well, and then you wait for it to be delivered. Well, with local shops, you pay. Well, I guess it's more of an instant gratification, because then you actually get your parts right away. Then you get to work with them without waiting.
Yeah, same day.
Yeah, same day.
You
Yeah.
get it. You can go in there.
And if there's something specific you're looking for, you call them up, say, hey, I'm about to start a very large 3D printing project. I need 10 spools of lime green 3D filament and PLA plus, and like they'll get it for you. like that. Like these guys are always happy to serve the customers.
This is one
And
thing, 3D printing, okay? When I
mhm,
order filament on Amazon or whatever, I'm trying not to order less and less from Amazon
mhm,
lately, but when I order filament from Amazon, I have to assume that the color, the tone, the hue that you see on the screen is what you get. But I think
yeah,
in going in person and seeing the little slit in the box and physically seeing the color of the filament, I think that's a big boon. I think that's a big deal, especially if you're doing more customer facing prints or like artistic prints. I think that's a really big deal, picking up your filament in person.
yeah, definitely, and especially if you need more than one spool of a color. These things are made in batches, and sometimes the color can be like just slightly different from spool to spool if you get different batches. So if you go in, you actually see the spools on the shelves. You can confirm they're from the same batch. It's like yarn. Like for anyone who knits, it's like buying bolts of yarn. That you can ensure that your filament matches. You can as you brought up, make sure it's like the shade of the color that you're looking for what you're building. Or sometimes you go in and like I bought a spool of glow in the dark filament just on a whim because I thought, hey, this would be kind of fun to print with. And my grandson is like all over that. Every time he comes over, like, hey, can we print this in glow in the dark? Hey, can we print this Pokemon in glow in the dark? And I was like, all right, sure, yeah, absolutely. So definitely get the use out of it. So just even impulse buys like that um, can be a benefit. So yeah, and anyone who has access to a local to a local shop like this, make use of them because it's getting hard for them. Especially when you consider, there's always rising tax costs, rising costs of leasing, and they have all these extra challenges other than just selling online. Anyone coming in buying out of their shop, it helps them. It helps them. It helps your community. It helps buy local.
100%. The other thing is, people listening and they think it's a little absurd that we're pushing hard for local electronics shops. You forget that your parents and your grandparents, they had a local electronics shops. Everybody except for really, really rural people had local electronics shops. There was a Radio Shack on
Yeah.
not every corner, but every city had a Radio Shack. And you could go in there and you can get 10 100 ohm resistors if you wanted to. You could get a single baggie with a cardboard fold over of a 3904 transistors. Like you
Mhm.
could pick up those parts locally. In fact, that was the preferred way to do it. You would literally go and pick up your parts. Here in Ottawa, I think we have 2 electronic stores. But last time I was in one of the 2, one is like way at the other end of town, but one that's closer to me. Last time I was in there, I wasn't so much into electronics. I had just started my channel, so I didn't really have the chance to appreciate it. But when I called them semi recently, probably a couple of years ago, before I bought my Rigel scope, I asked them, what kind of oscilloscopes they sold, and they said, well, we mostly do business to business. So, our cheapest one is like $9,000. And I was like, uh-oh, this is not for me. But you know what? I think I'm going to go in there and see what the vibe is, because that would be a nice tour as well. In my local quote unquote electronics shop, even though when I went there, it wasn't geared for me, but maybe it is now because the maker movement really took off since, 2010 or whenever the hell I was in there.
Yeah.
In fact, I don't know if you know the company, Allied Electronics. Do you know them?
Oh yeah, I know. I remember Allied Electronics.
So
Yeah, I'd been in there.
yeah, so Allied is, I mean, it's a little bit like a DigiKey mouser, like you can order stuff online.
Mhm.
We have an Allied here in Ottawa, and someone was asking me, where to get parts locally. So I said, oh, try Allied because they're, whatever. They weren't that far from work. He went there, and it turns out that the Allied store, quote unquote, we had was literally just a desk that you can do your online orders at. You can fill out a piece of paper. They had nothing in stock. So that was a little bit weird.
Yeah. And again, I can understand that. I can understand that business practice, because like the less you have to keep in stock, the less overhead. But doesn't help us who in the maker movement who enjoy going up and need that transistor or the box of resistors,
or just browsing. I mean, sometimes I go to Home Depot when I have time to burn, like I'm waiting for my wife to finish her meeting or whatever. I'll just walk through Home Depot, and then I'll be like, oh, yeah, that piece of pipe I could build this and this out of. Or, oh, I didn't realize that they sold metric fasteners up to whatever size. Like, you kind of don't get that browsing experience on Amazon or eBay or even AliExpress because it's all algorithmic. Mm-hmm. I really like the McMaster-Carr approach, where everything is categorized and you can go browse a category. Whereas if you go on Amazon or AliExpress, it's more like, oh, here's 15 results that match your search query, only your search query, and then the next results are all things that are based on your interests. And I already know what my interests are. I already bought everything from the interests section. Let me find something new, which finding something new is something those brick and mortars really help you do, I think, at least.
Yeah. Show me something unexpected.
That's right. That's exactly it. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna head down to Q-Kits at some point and take a look at the store. But I think I have a fire under my butt now to go to the. While I still have time before the tire season gets rolling in full, I'm gonna go check out the local electronics store and see what they have. I just wonder, because I think they're a big corporate store. They're a chain. I wonder if I'll be able to get a hold of like the owner or the manager, the decision maker, because it would be cool to take video in there, but obviously you need permission.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good question whether it's like a corporate store or a franchise. Or thing is, even if you can like talk to the store manager, that might just be enough to get the permission as well.
Possibly. For those of you wondering, it used to be called Gervais Electronics, but now it's Active Tech Ottawa. And I'm not really sure, like their website, it's not a very online focused. I think they still do B2B, because if you go on their website, essentially they have like a list of their brands or whatever. And then they have a website, Accesstronic, ACCESSOTRONIK. And yeah, if I'm just looking quickly, it's a very old style website, like the kind with the menu on the left. So I'm not sure if they're doing a lot of online sales. I'd have to go in and see what they do in store. All right, moving on. So do you have any projects that you're working on for the near future? Maybe something we'll see on your channel coming up soon?
So I have a project I kind of had in mind for a while now. The problem is I've always had a hard time kind of getting started with projects, because I started the channel as kind of an educational channel. The whole purpose was, I see something that I find interesting, I learn about it, and then do a video about that to kind of explain what I just learned to help me understand what I just picked up. So doing projects was not always the easiest thing to do with that kind of format. I want to start getting into like robotics. Like I want to start like a robotics project. And I think it was 2 years ago, I kind of got in my mind I wanted to make like a Johnny Five robot. And then I started looking at some of the people who'd done that and realized, well, first of all, there's no way I could ever get to the kind of detail that they do. But then, it's my project. I can do as much or little detail as I want. So that shouldn't hold me back. But But now it's just a matter of figuring out, where do I start? How much do I focus on video wise versus doing the background? Like the design part of it, I probably don't want to put as much in the video as say the actual figuring out how to run the tracks. How do I create, how do I lift the body? How do I create the head with the various with like a camera and sensors? Like this is the kind of project that I can definitely get into different aspects of hobby electronics, and it's interesting and exciting, and it's something I want to get into. But like I said, it to me there feels like there's a large starting hump, and then last couple of years I've had other reasons that have kind of slowed me down a bit too. But now that things seem to be getting a little more on track, I'm looking at this again and wondering how to start planning this and how to get started with this.
So definitely that's a big project. And the way I see it is you've got sort of like 3 options. And I can share with you what the way I would approach something like that. So the number 1 option would be to do the entire thing off camera, essentially, but filming some of the progress, but essentially making one 15, 20-minute video. I built a replica Johnny 5, and then you create a little story about how you started, the steps you took, the problems you had along the way, and then the finished product. That would give you like a typical sort of like Emily the Engineer type video, which will do really well on YouTube. Problem is, that probably has like 200 hours of behind the scenes work to get done, right? That is insane.
Yeah.
So that would
I have a hard time with that kind of filming and that kind of project, like the long-term stuff, because I also have like a really bad attention span, especially when it comes to that. So if I can have shorter short goal-based targets, then that I could see that helping keep me on track and on the project a little better. And then, as I said, there's so many different aspects and like different things that can be done with this that can essentially have their own feature, rather than, hey, I built this thing, it didn't do this, and this. Instead of like, hey, I want to do this thing, I want to look at this today.
Yeah.
And I think that could be...
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So number 2, the second way to do this is to tackle one section at a time. So for example, if you want to handle the head, right? So the head has, I think it's only the eyes, maybe it has like eyebrows that move or something.
Yeah, and I think it has a speech synthesizer in it too, if I remember.
Yeah. So, but then again, you can attack that separately. So let's say you could make a video, or you can work on / make a video on, the head, and, where you found the STL, printing it, finishing it, how you're making the movement work, etc. And then, you have a finished head for the end of the video. And then your next video can be on like adding the speech synthesis. And then your next video can be like adding a neck section, because the head goes up, down, side. So that's kind of like more bite-sized sort of sections. And then the third way is the way that I've been approaching things, even though I'm going at a glacial pace. It would be to like explain the concept of like getting something to move with a servo. So you have a microcontroller, you have a servo, how to make something move like that. That's one video. And then you make another video, showing those things moving in a Johnny 5 head, for example. So it's like, it breaks those other steps down to their core components. And then if you set yourself a reasonable goal, like one video every 2 weeks or 3 weeks or month, then yeah, it'll take you forever to build the full robot. But iteratively, you would have done, at the end, like 300 videos on it. And each video could stand on its own, because if someone was just looking to how to control a servo, then they have, your video shows up in search for that. How to build a Johnny 5 head, that you got search for that. And then people that are not drop in, drop out, like not people who come for just the tutorials, they'll also get the fun of, oh my God, he released a new Johnny 5 video, and they're following your progress. So I think that's the way I would personally approach it, but I don't know if that really makes sense with the way you work, for example.
Actually makes complete sense with the way I work. Like I said, it kind of goes back to one of the other videos I'm thinking about right now, which is I want to make. So I've done this before, but I want to retackle it. But this time I want to look at I2S sound circuits, because like ESP32s have that protocol on them. And I recently picked up an I2S board from, I think it was a Mailbag. I can't remember. I was basically going to start one video where I just look at the I2S board, how it works, how you program it, how you get it to do things. And then from there, have a second video where you put it into a practical application, like a Bluetooth speaker, that you can say select between Bluetooth or just wired input.
Can you explain to us what I2S is? Because I do know it's some sort of protocol, but I'm not familiar. I have heard people talk about it and about it in audio applications, but just what do you know about it? Because I know nothing.
I don't know a lot because I haven't done much of my research yet. But it's like you said, it's essentially an audio protocol. My loose understanding of it now, and like I said, I still have to do all my research for this before I even start with this thing. I think it works similar to I2C. Again, I don't know. And that's why I want to look at these things, because, I don't know how it works. I don't know what it does. So I need to sit down. I need to research, what is it? What does it do? How to use it. And then I'm going to create a video to talk about the stuff that I learned through the research to help kind of cement in that knowledge.
Yeah, so you're approaching it very similar to how I approach it. I am not a subject matter expert. I essentially learn it good enough to explain it, and that's how I learn it. And the whole reason why I learned it was because the YouTube video helps me learn it, essentially. So I think we're kind of on the same page there.
Yeah. Yeah, and like when I started the channel, I was doing electronic projects for a friend of mine, and I was having some troubles with some of the concepts. And I realized, the best way I learn things is when I try to explain it back to them, and I try to explain it back to someone, because it makes me think about what I just learned, because I have to think about it in order to explain it. So I thought, if I just did that to a camera, then it gives me to explain something I just learned. Then if I get something wrong, goodness knows there'll be someone in the comments more than happy to point out what I got wrong. And then, it's one of the things I learned quickly. Is like, if someone says, well, no, you're wrong, you should be looking at it this way. And it's like, oh, great. Yes. Thank you. That's why I'm doing this. Because, I am going to get things wrong. I want to be told when I'm wrong. And I want the ability to help, improve my knowledge.
Yeah, that's the Overton principle. The fastest way to get the answer to a question is to reply with the wrong answer, or to say an incorrect fact, and then you'll get the correct fact the fastest.
Yeah, except I don't do it on purpose on the internet. Like I do try to get it right.
I mean, it happens. I got curious.
Yeah, it absolutely happens.
So I got curious. I asked ChatGPT to explain, like I'm 5 years old, what I2S is. So it says it's a special way for little computer parts, I took it very literally, to talk to each other about sound, digital audio like music or voices. And then, so it says I squared C communicates about anything, but I squared S communicates only about sound. So that's interesting. It's really a fast protocol because sound needs speed. I squared C is much slower, but good enough. So it only does audio data. I squared C does everything, and it's used in speakers, headphones, audio players, and I squared C is used for everything else like sensor screens and buttons. So yeah, so I thought it was a super fast protocol that could do sound, but it turns out it's a super fast protocol that is meant for sound. So I didn't even know that much.
Okay. Well, there's my first step for my research too, I guess.
Yeah, now we know. What's cool yeah, it's cool that they put them on ESP32s because ESP32s have such a tried and true Bluetooth implementation and Wi-Fi implementation that I guess if you have the hardware I squared S capabilities, it's like you can make a quote unquote smart device. I hate that term, but a smart device with much more ease, right? And maybe someone distilled something like a DeepSeek or something like that, small enough to fit in an ESP32 and run with its processing power. But I just think that would be the coolest thing if it could understand what you meant when you asked it to do something via AI, run locally, low power, and then physically did the thing. That would be really awesome.
Yeah, well, there are projects using ESP32 for home assistance and home automation. So absolutely use it for that kind of purpose.
I was surprised how I got ESP32. Like I made an AI video. I don't know if you've seen it, but it essentially
I did watch that one. So it was the switches, wasn't it?
Yep, that's it. So it's incredible how simple it was to use AI. I mean, I had to feed it back through a couple times, but that's the whole goal. I would have never been able to do that without the help of AI, but it'd be really cool if you could run a language model, maybe not an LLM, maybe like a small language model, so that instead of saying, turn on coffee maker, you could just say, I want a coffee, and it turns on the coffee maker. You know what I mean? Like you could just say anything with the intention of wanting a coffee, and it would...
Or to say, I'm awake, turns on the kitchen light, starts the coffee, and then...
Exactly.
And maybe turn on the toaster oven to heat up your waffles or something.
Yeah, there we go. Or you say the FBI is here and it clears your browser history, whatever. Something like that.
Yeah, and there are home assistant recipes you can create for doing stuff like that too.
Are you into Home Assistant?
I want to. I have I'm looking up on my to-do board right now, and I actually have about 4 things up there for Home Assistant things that I want to look at. And that's another one of those projects that I want to get into and start working on, but that initial barrier to get into has always just kind of stopped me.
I completely know how you feel because I have 2 Orange Pi PCs kicking around here, a couple of Raspberry Pis that I'm not using, and everyone tells me I should get into Home Assistant and MQTT and all these things, but the problem is you're exactly right. It's the initial, where the hell do I start, and do I have the brain cycles necessary to get this going? Because my comment section is always I'll help you, I'll do, I'll show you how to do it, but it's it's not that easy. You can't just tell me how to do it. I have to be able to do it well enough to explain it, or else I'm not making a video, right?
Yeah. So when it comes to stuff like Home Assistant, so I have Google Assistant at home already, but I find the only thing I really use it for are lights. Like turning lights on in kitchen and living room. I have things like my stove's hooked up to it, my dishwasher is hooked up to it, but I don't use the Home Assistant for anything for those. All I really get out of that is hey, your oven's at temperature. Your dishwasher's done its cycle now. I don't really automate much. So when it comes to building like a homemade home assistant project, I think that was like, well, what do I want to automate? And that tends to be where I get hung up the most.
And that makes a lot of sense. I'll tell you, here in the basement where my workshop is, my dream essentially is that I would walk through a beam or something on the stairs to the basement, and it would just turn on my lights down here, because the way my lights are, the light switch is in the deep end of the workshop, because I use a 12 volt I use 12 volt power supply and LEDs, not the regular wall switch. So essentially what I have to do is I have to turn on the lights in the stairs, and then go down the stairs around the corner, turn on the lights to this area, then walk to the deep end of my workshop, and then flip on the 12 volt DC power supply, which turns on my LEDs, and then walk back to the wall, turn off the lights, walk back upstairs, turn off the stair lights. So it'd be great if it could just know that I'm on my way, turn on the lights, and then somehow had a presence detection, so that, if it doesn't see any movement here, it would shut the lights. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So even just like hooking into an assistant, something like a smart wall switch would probably be enough for that. For detection, even like a PIR sensor on your stairs would be enough to tell it that you're coming down the stairs and turn on.
But you do need logic behind it, because it false triggers a lot. Because I had these PCBs where I took these LEDs and did like a spotlight kind of thing, and they were powered by recycled 18650s. You just stick them on the wall. And I had one I have a bathroom connected to my bedroom, and I put it inside the bathroom. And so when the deal was, at night, if you have to go to the bathroom, you don't have to flip on the lights. You just walk in, it'll detect you, turn on this little spotlight, which was very low power, probably like a watt or 2 watts. And it would be enough so you didn't have to flip on the lights. Problem is, it false detected all the time. So it would like wake me up in the middle of the night, and the lights would be on, and my wife would be snoring, and I'd be in bed. So it's like, uh-oh, like, is there a ghost in here or something? It would false trigger like all the time and scare the living bejesus out of us.
Yeah, that could even just be a calibration thing.
It could be. Yeah. The PIR modules I was using didn't have pots or anything. I think you'd have to desolder and resolder different resistors to make them more or less sensitive. But they bounce too, right? Because there's a mirror in the
that would do it.
Yeah, so
that would do it.
Infrared will bounce off a mirror. So it's just, it's all sorts of things. And I don't know if you listen to Linus Tech Tips, but he has
Sometimes.
Yeah, so he has presence detection switches in his house, and he said it's the most unreliable thing ever. And when he looked into it, it turns out presence detection is very difficult to do right, because different different methods, like microwaves are good at one thing, infrared are good at another thing, like sonar is good at another thing. So there's not really one holistic way to detect if someone's in a room or not.
No, that's why it's like, hey, turn on kitchen light. Hey, turn on living room lights. Hey, it's time for bed, which turns off all the lights. And
yeah, that'd be great.
Actually, we have one turned on, like when my son and grandson stay over, it sets the living room lights to like this low purple color, and then sets the kitchen light to really low, so that if like my grandson has to go to the washroom, which is on the other side of the house in the guest room, he can still kind of make it through the house without tripping over stuff and without having to navigate in the dark. So but that's, it's a home assistant recipes. So you just say that, when I say this, set these sets of lights to this light to this, and then.
So I'll say, if anyone has any sort of resources to get going with like open source home assistants and stuff like that, but leave them in the comments below, and maybe we'll take a look at it, and they'll maybe shape the way that we give it a shot. How's that sound?
That sounds perfect. I know there's one I'm looking at right now. have ESP home with a question mark next to it. I have ESP1 sensor written down. These are things I need to do some research on. And if I remember, those are like ESP32, or they might even be 8266 based sensors that you can get that will communicate with Home Assistant.
Oh, that would be cheap. I have a bunch of those here.
Yeah, and like they're and I think that's exactly why I wrote it down, because like I have about a dozen ESPs floating around my office here, and I'd love to you can hook them up to like relays, and well, yeah, hook them up to relays for turning on lights. You can basically just use them as communication modules for whatever you want to control through Home Assistant.
100%. So do you have any sort of professional goals with your channel this year? Is there anything that you're specifically working towards? And if you need to think about it, I can start if you'd like.
My professional goal is to not lose my YouTube partnership again.
You lost it? How did you lose it? I didn't know you could lose it.
I lost it because I went 7 months without putting out a video back in 2023.
Yeah, but I didn't think they could remove your partnership.
My number of views per year went below a threshold. My just basically the statistics that they use to determine whether you're an active channel. If you go below a certain level, they'll kick you off. Like I lost all my perks at one point. I just got back my my payments from them, like my ad revenues.
Wow. I didn't know that could happen. Well, if you're listening, guys, go watch his content. It's really good anyways, so you're not losing anything.
Yeah. I think one of the things that really helped me push me over the edge, in December, I did an advent calendar, an electronics advent calendar. And every single day I either did a video or I streamed that advent day, which meant like 24 daily videos. And that certainly helped the numbers.
Definitely. I was there for a couple of those. They were good videos.
Yeah, you were. Yeah, I appreciate having you in the chat when you were there. Well, I appreciate when anyone can come in my chat when I decide to stream.
Definitely live streaming is the best part of YouTube for me. It allows me to focus on my task. Yeah. It, it sort of like quote unquote forces me to not sit down and watch YouTube. So live streaming is my jam. And on that note, that brings me to what I think my goal this year is. So first of all, now I have two goals. One goal is to make sure you don't lose your partnership program. And my second goal is I got to find a way to, I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet, but somehow I'm going to get my viewership to come up with project ideas, projects that are doable in like one day, half a day, 6 hours, something like that. And then,
well, kind of like Tested's one day builds kind of idea.
Exactly that. So get people to write in suggestions, pick 5, and then get some other people or the same people or whatever. I don't know if it's going to be a poll or on Patreon or on my live streams to vote on which project of the 5, and then set up a stream where I start the day with that project as a goal. And I have to do that project. I have to stream until I'm finished that project, and I have to use only the stuff I have here in stock. So I'm thinking it's going to be a good way for me to flex my skills, or maybe not flex my skills, but hone my skills. I think hone is a better word. It's going to be a way for me to put to use, the stuff in my hoard here. And at the same time, I think it would be entertaining, because then you could take the live stream and edit it down into a regular video. And I think the appeal for the viewership is the fact that it's a challenge, and the challenge is one day plus only the stuff I have in stock. But I mean, I have so much stuff in stock here that I think it should be doable.
Yeah, I think that'd be very interesting. That'll be very fun to watch.
So if anyone has any feedback on how it would get the suggestions, like who would be allowed to suggest things, because obviously if it's something like make I don't know, edible socks. Like that has nothing to do with it. I'm not gonna do that.
No, there'd have to be some sort of base criteria.
And I think ideally I wouldn't even see the options. Like ideally it would be somebody else that organized and made a list of the top 5, and then and then somehow people got to vote on it without me seeing it, so that I can actually, it's given to me. I start the stream, I have no idea what I'm doing, and then someone would, like a volunteer would be like, okay, your challenge is you need to do this, go. I think that would be so much fun, but I just wonder, I have a hard time getting people to answer polls and stuff, so I don't know how much engagement I'll have. And I think the more people participate, the better the options will be.
Maybe put up a form or something on your website, and then just start pushing that page on the website to get people to start submitting ideas, to start building that collection of project ideas.
That might be a good idea. I just have to find a volunteer that is familiar enough with my abilities and the type of stuff I do to like sort out all the bad ideas and then put the good ones together.
I'd be willing to help. I'm sure you have a few other friends that'd be willing to help too, like probably like another maker, and them be happy to help you.
Yeah, maybe I'll try to put together a committee, so that's, because I think it's going to be a lot of work to put on one person. So perhaps I'll start recruiting a committee.
So on the stream days, maybe have a different person. He says like, hey, Simple Electronics, here's today's challenge. You need to blah.
Basically, yeah, that would be it.
Yeah.
Well, any closing thoughts as we get to the end of the podcast here? Is there something you want to direct the viewers' attention to, aside from subscribing and watching your videos? Because I think that's really important.
Nothing specific. I have, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Blue Sky. Otherwise, I'm most active on YouTube.
And all those links will be in the video description or the show notes or wherever you're watching. Everything will be in there. I encourage you to go and follow on all the platforms that you actually use, because we're creators. If there's nobody following us, we're just shouting in the dark. Well, I want to thank you so much for saving me from myself for this week, and really for the really good conversation. So thanks a lot for that. I know this is kind of last minute for you, so it's really appreciated.
No, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed this.
Awesome. And so for those of you listening at home, I hope you do go check out Basement Electronics' channel. It's linked in the description. I will also put one of my favorite videos. The link will be underneath there, so you go check out, so you have a good idea of what his channel is all about. And other than that, I hope to catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening.